Hello, my sweet lover cakes. Welcome back to the Lilah experience. Today we're going to talk about something that's a little raw, tender, and honestly one of the hardest things about being human. At least, well, everything can be a little bit hard. Everything's beautiful, but it's grief. I used to think that grief had an ending, that one day it would soften, fade, or disappear completely, and you'd get over it. But what I've realized is it doesn't really go away. And I still wonder if maybe it will in time. But I'm starting to come to the conclusion that you just need to learn to live with it. Grief is love with nowhere to go. It's the echo of connection, the imprint of someone or something that changed you. And even when time passes, the love remains. The pain remains. This isn't how to heal your grief episode. It's an invitation to sit with it, to talk about it, to remember that if grief still lives inside you, it's because love still does. I often remind myself that it hurts so bad because I loved her so deeply. If this is new to you, there's some older episodes about my experience with grief. I've had a decent amount of people pass. It was really my cousin who hit the hardest, and that I still live with that constant learning to live with it. So many things to discuss today. I'll start with a story of why I'm bringing this up today. It is October 6th, 2025, 4:35 p.m. London Standard Time, GMT. So yesterday, I was triggered by my sweet, lovely boyfriend. He's absolutely incredible, and it had absolutely nothing to do with him. I noticed that, and probably because he's the closest person to me right now, especially in London as well, that one, life is a mirror, two, relationships are a mirror. That's another episode for you, but and I've told him before, I'm not mad at you. I might get upset by things, but don't take it personally, because I know that life is a mirror and you're showing me things that I need to work on within myself, and that it's not actually him or anything in life. Everything's a mirror. Anyway, so I got very upset, and not mad, but it actually took me a long time to explore what I was feeling, but all of a sudden, big emotions. This guy was experiencing big emotions. And somehow it all tied back to grief, where it was like, how did this end up circling back? The first thought was, I won't go into all of it, but that I just reminded myself that sometimes you don't get the luxury of knowing things. Like, you don't get that luxury of knowing everything. Like, you can pry and pry and pry, but sometimes you can't. So that tied back to my experience with grief, because we don't actually know how my cousin died. And I've come to the acceptance that I will probably never know. And that's the reality of the situation. And I need to live with that and accept that. And I do, but there's still moments when that life lesson plays over. And then if I'm in a heightened emotional state, it's like, oh my God, I'll never know how she died. Like, it could have been this, it could have been that. And then you're just playing in your head all these possibilities or whatever it might be. And then I'm like, oh man, feeling bad for Jonathan, because he might think I'm upset with him, but this has absolutely nothing to do with him. But I am not in a space to explain what I'm experiencing right now, because I'm just trying to process it on my own. Thankfully, he's such a kind man and supports me and loves me and hugs me and knows now, like, it's usually not personal, and it ends up, any of those heightened moments end up being really tied to grief, because then it just hits and I'm like, oh my God, life is so short. And then it's like, feel better, but it's hard to feel better because you're sad and she's never going to be here again and all this lifetime, whatever. If you've experienced grief, and there's so many different forms of grief too, but you know what I mean. This story probably hits in some way. Well, honestly, I kept crying for hours, because then it was like, I can't stop crying. And then I did stop because I was like, okay, let's move on, because I've realized we might not get over it. And I've played around with different versions of healing. Way back at the beginning, I would just get up and go for a run. And it was like, nope, this isn't going to hurt me. I'm going to keep moving. And then after a while, a couple of years, it was like, okay, well, perhaps that isn't the best way, but that's what I needed at the time, and that's fine. Then I sat with it for a couple of years, and then it was like a month, I feel like I was just down, and I thought, I don't know if this is it either, because I don't know if it goes away. Like, it does get softer, and so it's learning to sit with it, and then almost giving right now and then kind of give it a time limit. I'm like, okay, a couple hours is enough. We're going to move on now. My point is, there's a myth of getting over it. So we live in a world that rushes healing. And that's one thing too that was difficult, because last night when I was bawling, it's like, oh man, it's been 6 years. Like, I don't know if I'm ever going to get over it. It still hurts. And then I'm crying, and then it's like, oh, it's so hard to do life. But this isn't really a thing that you, after 6 years has gone by, you can't be like, I'm grieving. Well, maybe you can, I don't know, but it's different than when something first happens. At least for me, it was like, okay, life shut down, made total sense, I'm grieving. Obviously, that was different at the beginning. But now when there's days that it hits, you have to really snap yourself out of it in order to move on with life and get through to the next step of whatever your day might be. So this is permission for you to embrace however your healing journey looks like. There's so much pressure to move on or get over it, and whether or not it's said out loud, I know for myself, I've experienced this pressure to tidy up the messiness of loss like it's something to fix. But the truth is, grief isn't linear. It doesn't move neatly through stages and end at acceptance. That's what I used to think, but I don't think that anymore. It weaves in and out of your life. And I've said this before, sometimes gentle, sometimes sudden. Sometimes it's just like a tear here and there. Others, it's a brick wall, face first. You are just stopped in your tracks. And every time it reminds you of how much you loved. And I think that's the part to remember. And after studying about the grieving brain, the science behind it, it's helped me heal in a way because I understand what's happening in the brain. And the example from one of the books was basically it's like short-circuiting. Your brain can't find them, and so it's just so difficult to comprehend because it's like, find my friends, find my iPhone, whatever it is. There's this being, and all of a sudden they're not on the map. So your brain just keeps going in circles because it's like, I don't understand, where are they now? Because we know that energy is not created or destroyed, so their energy is somewhere. And it's like, well, how does that happen? There's a psychologist, David Kessler, who worked alongside Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, and they once said that there's a 6th stage of grieving, and it's to find meaning. And I think that's true because while the pain may not end, what we do with that pain can shape us in a beautiful way. And perhaps that's how I've used grief, to really fuel me and to find meaning in. And sometimes it works. It always works. And there's always a lesson to be learned. It still can be tender. Like yesterday when I thought, well, you don't get the privilege or the luxury of knowing something. It was like, that was a life lesson that I learned from grief. It was still sad, but beautiful in the way that I have this perspective towards life in so many different areas that I wouldn't have if I didn't experience that. And for a long time too, I'd feel quite guilty almost looking at it in a beautiful light, because it's like at the expense of my beloved sister, cousin. But then I thought, well, you can't think about that because obviously you'd love for her to be here, and it's still hard for me to comprehend the fact that she actually isn't living right now on the planet. Like, it's mind-boggling. But the reality is that is the situation. So take what you have and make it work for you. You can laugh again, you can fall in love again, chase dreams, and still miss them. You can keep doing life and miss them and have it hurt. It's not regression if you're not always moving forward, but that's what being human is. And so many of us experience grief. I try not to compare griefs, but I definitely have really the whole time, where it's like, okay, well, it's not this person, so it's not that bad. It's like, okay, well, it's not this person, so it's not that bad. Trying to downplay it so it wouldn't hurt so much. But it's like, okay, actually, the reality is, she was my sister, technically a cousin, but it was hard, and it's still difficult. And that's okay. We just learn to live with it. So, when grief sneaks back in, sometimes it comes when you least expect it. Like I was saying, just your own thought pattern might trigger something totally unrelated, might trigger your experience. And then I was back in that space, even cleaning up my flat last night. It was like, all of a sudden I kept seeing the hospital, a song on the radio, the smell of somebody's perfume. I see people's hair. I have some friends who have similar hair, and I'm like, oh wow, you look just like her. The changing of the seasons, or even a small moment of joy, realizing you wish they were here to see it. That hits so often. There's this, I guess maybe it's called survivor's guilt, even though it wasn't like I survived anything, but this bittersweet when life is so beautiful, which is also why I think I hype life up so much to make it so beautiful, because I know how fragile it is. There's also this missing and loss of them not being there and you wishing that they were, and that's totally fine too. It can feel like an overreaction, like, why am I crying over this random thing? Me, all the time. But when you actually sit with it, it's not random. It's your heart remembering. It's your body holding on to what mattered most. There's physical trauma and physical loss that your body is experiencing. Neuroscience tells us that emotional memories are stored deep within the brain, in the amygdala, and they can resurface when something reminds us of love, loss, or connection. So it's not weakness, it's not failure, it's the body saying, this was sacred. It's your body remembering. And I didn't put this in a podcast yet, but I'm actually writing a book about navigating your 20s. At least that's what it's about for now. And there was an experience when I was in Vancouver this past summer, July, August. Ooh. It was rough. I basically had so my grandmother is unwell, and that's why I went back to Canada for so long, is to be with her and spend that time together. And I wrote something really quite beautiful, but it's not in front of me right now. Basically about how you can experience, your body remembers the experience, right? So I was on my grandmother's bedside in basically her deathbed. She didn't pass, she's still alive, bless her, like, peace and love. I hope I get to see her again. But there was, I think because it was like a hospital bed at her home, fortunately, I was on the right side of her bed holding her hand, and all of a sudden I got a flashback of being in the hospital with Alexanne on the right side of her bed holding her hand. And there's this beautiful moment because my grandmother could kind of hold my hand back while Alexanne couldn't. But then there was the pain of, it's like gratitude for this moment, but then pain for that previous moment, and a whirlwind of emotions and experiences. And so not only emotionally inside myself did I feel just this whirlwind, but I actually was seeing, it was like the past and the present were totally merging into one. I was seeing this present room in front of me, the layout of my grandmother's room, while simultaneously seeing the hospital and Alexandre's scene play out in my mind. And it was so fascinating because it's like, what is occurring right now? How is this just I then started hyperventilating because it was just way too much to experience. But then the curiosity set in as well, because in a way I thought, wow, I'm really healing parts of myself tied to this grief that I would have had no other way to sort of trigger that without this other moment kind of mirroring it. Tied to that was, from what I mentioned earlier, is that it could be an unrelated, I mean, that's kind of quite specific, that experience, but an unrelated thing that might trigger something. So your reaction might be huge because really it's not about what's in front of you in that moment. It's the past pain that's resurfacing. And taking time to sit with that and explore it, and to know the root of where your emotions and expression is coming from, can really serve you or potentially who you're with in terms of a relationship. At least for me, I find this comes up not that often, but enough where I have to then explain. I don't have to, but it would be nice for the other person to explain why this is so difficult, because it's not really about this. It's more about what it's tied to. And then everyone is happy because it makes sense. Living with grief means accepting that it's now part of who you are. And that is kind of weird and uncomfortable because you don't want to feel broken, and you're not. It's love. It did break your heart open a little bit, but I think if you're able to move past it and live with it in a way that it serves you, the people who have experienced grief have such a beautiful outlook and perspective on life, because you're able to go, oh, okay, nothing really matters. Everything matters. Equally, nothing really matters. Like, live your life, enjoy this present moment. Look at the flowers outside. Look at the trees outside. Look at the leaves. Look at the ground. Whatever it is. Oh my God, it's so beautiful. People laugh at me and it's like, how are you the way you are? And I think, well, probably because I've had such low lows that I remember if it's not that bad, then it's not that bad. You know, like, nobody's died today in my world. So it's a pretty good day. And even if they have, I'll learn a lesson from it and I'll survive and everything will be okay. Obviously, I'm saying this when I'm in a positive state and I'm not bawling. So there are days that I feel horrible, but it's just breathing through it and experiencing it and trying to put the glasses on, the rose-colored glasses, and see how it's beautiful. It's not your whole story, but it's a chapter that never really closes. It's interesting to play with in your mind, and I like to play with it in kind of how does it tie together and how does it visually tie together. But there's a beautiful metaphor called the ball in the box. So imagine there's a box with a big red button. That button is your pain. At first, the ball inside is so big, it hits the button. Sorry. Okay, at first, the ball inside is so big, it hits the button constantly. If you've heard this before, it's quite common. Over time, the ball gets smaller, so it moves around the box more freely. But every now and then, it still hits the button. And when it does, it hurts just as much as it did at the beginning. That's grief. It softens, it shifts, but when it touches that pain, it still aches because it mattered. I've explained this before about the brick wall. It's like, okay, usually throughout life, you're going about, and then all of a sudden you hit the brick wall. I've also called it the moments between. It's like usually where the ball is getting smaller, so the moments between are getting bigger, right? It's the moments between the ball hitting the button are getting bigger because the ball is getting smaller. However it works for you. Make a little visual so you can understand and visually see it. oh, okay. Because I think how I kind of track my progress, if I'm working through something, yes, even if you don't work through it, time will go and you will heal. But that wasn't really enough for me. I wanted to heal faster. Because I wanted to make this work for me instead of letting it just be something that hurt me. But I thought, okay, everything in life is an experience for us to learn from, and that's why we're here. I believe that we chose to be here, and everything we signed up for, or everything we experience, we signed up for. So this, as brutal as that might be, is something. So I tried to kind of, hack the lessons early so I could just understand it. There's ways to live with grief and how to work with it, not against it. And everybody is so different. But talking about it, as basic and simple as it is, grief needs a voice. And even last night, and that's honestly probably why I have a podcast too, because parts of me think, not why the whole podcast, but I talk about it on here is because it's so helpful to talk about it, but I don't necessarily want to talk to people about it who haven't asked, because I don't want to just unload on them. But I know that, well, I like to believe that everything that happens to you or for you is important to share, because you can help somebody else through it. Obviously, I talk about this with my close, immediate people. And I found even last night when I wasn't quite ready to voice what I was experiencing, it feels heavier. So when we keep it quiet, it feels heavier. But when you talk about them, say their name, share their stories, or even just express what's going on within you to somebody that loves you, or even if they don't love you, whatever. But sharing, say for myself last night, was so helpful. And to just be held in that moment. I'm so lucky for somebody to hold space for me like that I'm that close with. And once I just explained what was going on, and I was so upset because it's been 6 years and I still get so upset by it. And then it's like, when you're in the moment, it feels so dark. You're like, oh my God, is this ever going to end? But even just saying that out loud instead of thinking it in my head over and over immediately made me feel better. And sweet, loving Jonathan just held me and let me cry for as long as I needed. And then it was like, okay. I was like drooling all over him, or tearing all over him. And that is quite funny, honestly. It makes you laugh. But even if it's been years, you're allowed to not only keep that memory alive, but just be present with it. It doesn't have to be of the past. It can still be present. I like to talk about it so much because I think people are so uncomfortable by it. And even if you're the listener, learning to hold space for somebody in a way that makes the speaker feel so comfortable sharing, and not like they're just unloading on you, but you're actually having a conversation in a way about the experience. I don't know, I'm just trying my best here, but I do feel like I put a lot of thought and effort into working through this stuff, that hopefully it's helpful for others. I've heard before too in some podcasts or books that I've read is to create rituals of remembrance. So one, you can light a candle, visit a place that reminds you of them, write them a letter. Ritual gives our heart a place to honor what words can't fully express. I used to write letters to her. I'd wake up in the middle of the night. Wow, it's actually been a while. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, like sad, and then I would just write to her. Yeah, that was it, really. Wow, I haven't done that in a while. So there you go, healing. I don't feel the need. I don't wake up regularly anymore, like kind of with tears to my face. I will say I do wake up sometimes. I notice my body still holds the trauma in a way that I wake up so nervous that somebody's died, especially living across the world from my family, and waking up to lots of texts, group chats, family chats, whatever it might be, and just being like, everyone's okay? Okay, back to bed. Perhaps because I was woken up in the middle of the night. My mom said go to the hospital. Anyways, as much as I've healed and I don't necessarily need to write to her, there's still clues that your body might be telling you, and there's ways to heal. So I'm still working through that side of things, and maybe it's just especially because I live across the world from my family. But just start to be aware. Don't overthink it. You don't want to live in your trauma or in your pain. But when you can connect the dots, then it closes the loop a little bit. And it's like, oh, okay, I understand that now. My body's been trying to talk to me. I'm listening. Now we can move on a little bit. You can also express it through creation. So writing, painting, moving, singing, journaling, any form. Even if you think, oh, I'm not creative, just try. Just stop having that limiting belief and let yourself be creative, because we are all creative. It's a natural state of a human being. We're creative beings. So just give it a go. Expression helps the emotion move through you instead of getting trapped inside you. I use a lot of physical. I think I even had this. Oh yeah, I just recorded another podcast with Laura Armstrong, a coach, and there used to be, for maybe 2 years, I'd go to kickboxing or boxing and punch this bag so hard because I would visualize to like also get myself, okay, 2 parts. 1, to help me heal, to channel this grief and pain. 2, to have a really good workout and just get aggressive. And I would visualize the bag, no joke, as like potentially her murderer. It's weird to say that out loud because I obviously don't know what happened, and she wasn't murdered because we were in the hospital and she was there, but it was like, how did she get there? Anyways, that's another thing. So I had visualized this bag as like potentially somebody who did something. And for years, it worked. I would get so aggressive. And then there was one day when it was just like, the energy is not there. I can't hit the bag that hard. It's just this thought process isn't fueling me anymore. And then I thought, okay, well, good. I've healed from that. Now we'll move on. Now I try to shift into like a fueled by love instead of fueled by pain. But it's great. Love for life. So whatever way, creation, movement, however it might be, just let it flow through you. My sister really likes art. I've noticed I end up moving my body more and she'll end up painting more. Same for my mom, whatever it might be for you. Or you could journal prompt, what would you tell them today? What did their love teach you? What have you learned from their passing? That one's helped me a lot. Let your body feel it. Grief isn't just in the mind, it's in the body. Let yourself cry, breathe, rest, shake, or walk it out, punch it out, yoga it out, dance it out, whatever it might be. Your body remembers what the heart holds. Somatic release isn't weakness. It's how the body completes the story. It makes a world of a difference. I'm learning so much about my body and how it's held on to things that I've experienced. And now what I believe that I'm working through is ancestral trauma that's held in my genes and my DNA that I'm releasing. That's another topic, another day for us. And let joy in. Sometimes joy might feel like betrayal. Like if you smile, you've forgotten them, but joy doesn't dishonor their memory. It honors the life they gave you, the lessons they left behind, and the love they planted in you. Alexandre had such just like a I don't even know how to explain her laugh, but everyone just knew her laugh. It's like I can see it right now light up the room, just like sound waves, musical waves moving through. Oh, it's so beautiful. And sometimes it makes me sad when I think about it. Other times I think, laugh like that. She would be so happy. They want to see you thriving. I have to think about that too. If it was me, would I want people to be sad? Absolutely not. I would want them to be living their best, incredible, divine life, just having the best time ever. Connect to meaning or spirit, and you don't have to. It doesn't have to be meaning. Do what feels best for you, but I've found it's helpful when there's purpose behind it. Whether you believe in energy, the universe, or something greater, connection does bring peace. Finding meaning in the loss doesn't erase the pain, but it does give it purpose. So when somebody you love becomes a memory, the memory becomes a blessing. The permission slip, you guys. So here's your permission slip for the day. It's okay if it's been years and it still hurts. It's okay if you cry sometimes for no reason. It's okay if you still talk to them in your mind. It's okay if you're not over it. You're not broken for feeling grief deeply. You're human for loving deeply. Grief is a reminder that your heart worked exactly as it was meant to. It opened. And that love doesn't end. It transforms. And it stays. I'm going to say just one bit again. It's okay if you're not over it. Thank you for sitting with me in this conversation today with me, myself, and I. But I hope you took something from it. If you're walking through grief, I hope you know that you're not alone. And I experience it so regularly still. Life is so beautiful, and I don't dwell on it, but it's still present. And you don't have to rush your healing or silence your pain. I'm getting more comfortable with just sharing, like even this, just sharing, giving permission to everyone to just share. Grief doesn't mean your story ended. It means your love was real. And that love, it's still here. It lives in the way you show up, in what you create, in how you love others. Take care of your heart, let the waves come, and when they do, breathe. You're allowed to feel it all. You're allowed to live again and again and again and again. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who might need to hear it. And as always, thank you so much for being a part of my life and community and space, and giving space to healing and growth and truth. You can follow me on Instagram, and I would love to hear how you're navigating your grief and your journey through love and loss if you'd like to share it with me. Otherwise, until next time, fam, stay grounded, stay open, and remember your heart is strong enough to hold both the grief and the light. I love you so much. Have the best day ever.